Another challenge for the Green Hornet, his aide Cato, and their rolling arsenal, the Black Beauty. And now, to protect the rights and lives of decent citizens, rides the Green Hornet.
Welcome back, my friends, to an all-new episode of the Hornet Sting podcast. It's your old friend here, the owner-publisher of the Daily Sentinel, and I am joined once again, as I have been in this journey through the 50th anniversary of the ABC television series The Green Hornet, by the District Attorney himself, Mr. Jim Beard. Hey, Jim.
Hey, down the fireplace, and here I am.
Down the fireplace. Now, that's funny. You mentioned the fireplace right off the bat. We're going to be doing listener mail a little later on in the podcast. And one of the things that someone pointed out to me was a book I already possessed and forgot I had, called The Green Hornet, A History of Radio, Motion Pictures, Comics, and Television by Martin Grams and Terry Salomonson. And I hope I didn't mangle your name, Terry. I've known Martin for a couple of years now. He runs the Mid-Atlantic Nostalgia Convention here on the East Coast, and he gifted me with this copy of the book for some work I did for him on another book of his. But the fireplace, George W. Trendle, who did the original Green Hornet series, who pretty much created the Green Hornet, hated the fireplace.
Did he?
He hated the fireplace. He would, yeah. It's funny when you do some research, you know?
Oh, yeah, what a concept.
What a concept. No, but it's funny because he just felt that, and I guess he was still stuck in the radio phase, because he felt that the fireplace was just ridiculous. The whole idea of the district attorney coming in through the secret thing. He said, why couldn't he just come through the front door? And Bill Dozier's like going, well, doesn't it look silly that the district attorney is constantly visiting Britt Reed?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily silly, but telling also.
Right.
Yeah, that could potentially have blown something there. I think maybe the fireplace is very dramatic or melodramatic, but it's visually interesting, and of course that's what they're going to go for in television.
Right. Exactly. And I'm sure that's one of the things they had to concede to when you get to a television show, is that you have to show more than tell.
I mean, there's some expense that Britt went to, obviously, to install that.
Right.
But just for one man, but he considers that one man so important, and that their relationship must remain secure so as to not to endanger everybody.
Now, that would have been something, actually, if they'd had some cause, for whatever reason, to use the fireplace entrance by somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as an escape route for Britt and Cato, should something happen at his house.
That's true, yeah. Well, maybe if we'd gotten further into the series, we could have done something like that. Yeah.
Sure, they might have explored that.
Yeah. So let's get into talking about this episode here. It's called The Ray is for Killing. It aired November 11th, 1966. The writer was Lee Loeb. The director was William Bodine. Bodine has done numerous episodes of The Green Hornet. Now, Lee Loeb, this is his only credit on The Green Hornet, but it's interesting to note that he did write episodes of another series that Van Williams was on called Surfside 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't do too much of a deep look into writers and such unless they're like someone I know, or the episode particularly catches my attention. In this case, his name caught my attention. I thought I recognized it maybe from some animation works, but not the case. There is a Loeb, though, connected with Marvel Animation somewhere. I'm sure of it.
Oh, Jeff Loeb.
Jeff Loeb. There you go.
Yeah. He's and not only that, but the live action TV series also. Yeah, he's usually their story editor.
Right.
Producer, all of that. Yeah, he longtime comic book writer, DC and Marvel, and now involved in the Marvel live productions, animated productions.
Okay. So let me ask you something. The episode opens and we see Mike sitting there talking with two, people who were working at the paper. But without realizing it at first, I thought one of them was actually Mike.
I don't know if I thought that or not. That's interesting. Yeah.
He had that kind of reddish hair. He was a little younger though. That was the only thing. But it was weird because off the two of them went, and in comes Mike a moment after.
That probably blew your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. It was cool though. I mean, and I love this whole opening because we not only get to see, again, just like we always love, we love Casey out of the office and doing something and getting to be involved in the story rather than just coming in and giving updates or something. She's actually at the scene of the crime at Britt's house. But I also like the fact that when Britt's house gets robbed and the crooks are getting away, we get to see outside of his house for the first time.
Yeah, I thought about that too. And when I made a note about this, when the crook is shot by the police during their getaway, to me, again, it's a very clear message to the viewer. This is not Batman.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to have people shot. We're going to have people killed. To me, that really sends that message. And we talk a lot before about distinguishing this show from Batman and why it didn't work compared to Batman. But I do really, really love this whole opening. And overall, this is a very tight episode. This is so, to me, pulpy. It moves right along. It almost never wavers. It almost never rests. It's a well put together little episode, and pretty exciting too.
Pretty exciting, and also just visually interesting in the way that some of the camera angles are done. Like there's the scene when the Black Beauty is pulling up to the hospital because now they want to go and interview or talk with the injured prisoner. And when the Black Beauty pulls up, they've always been pretty good about showing the car so that we don't see the license plate. We clearly see it. So then you have to scratch your head and said, who registered the Black Beauty?
Right. Why do they even bother? You weren't supposed to look at that, John.
No, you weren't.
I'm sorry.
But it's so
wait, what state was it?
It didn't have a state. At least not that I recognize, and I can't remember the color now of it, but the license plate number was V194.
Okay. Well, it's funny because obviously Batman registered the Batmobile because it has a license plate, but that makes sense, him being a duly deputized officer of the law. But yeah, why the Hornet would bother with a license plate, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe for the one police officer in town that doesn't recognize the Black Beauty, that they could drive down the street, under the speed limit if they wanted to and get away with it and get past the police. Hey, I wanted to point something out here that made me chuckle when they're talking about the worth of the paintings.
Right.
It was $1.5 million, and that just was stunning to everybody involved in this. And I had to laugh because obviously that's peanuts today. One of those paintings might be worth $1.5 million, but it was supposedly all of them.
Yeah.
That were that amount. So I had to make a note of that and chuckle on it. I also like when Britt comes in and he immediately goes to Casey and checks on her first. Yeah. Asks if she's okay. A little tiny touch, but one that I appreciated.
Certainly a lot more concerned than a couple of weeks ago with Beautiful Dreamer.
Yes. Well, he obviously didn't think that there was anything dangerous in this situation that she was going into the middle of. But once he sees what happens, it's a nice little touch that he checks on her. I also wanted to ask you, does the ray look familiar to you at all? The ray in question, the laser gun ray thingy.
No.
No, something about it made me think of, and I hate to say it, I can't remember in Batman the handheld bat magnet gun that Batman has.
Right.
Is it the Bookworm episode?
Yes.
I feel like there's a chance that the base piece, that might actually be the same, or it's very similar. Now, I hate to say this, but I don't remember which one came first, the Bookworm episode or this. I have a feeling this came first. Bookworm came first.
Bookworm came first. Oh yeah.
I wonder if there's any chance that this laser gun in the Green Hornet is a redressed Batman super bat magnet gun. Just a thought. It might actually be the same base piece. Stock piece. I don't know.
It might be. Now,
I'm sure we're going to get called on this. I'm sure we're going to get an angry online comment to do our research, right?
Well, here's the thing. I'll do a screen grab of both, and we can make the comparison side by side. I'll put it on the Facebook page as well as on the Batcave podcast page listing for this episode. But there is one other thing. If that is true, that it might be the same thing with just an alteration on the front of the gun and such, then it's very odd because later on in Batman, there is it the Riddler episode with John Astin that we see Batman's little collection of souvenirs?
His trophy case,
his little trophy case on the metal shelves there. Nothing as spectacular as the dinosaur and the playing card, but they're there, and the magnet gun is there, which is odd.
Okay, yeah. There's chances are they wouldn't bother with redressing it back to the Batman gun. It's just a thought. To me, it's something very similar occurred to me, but it'd be interesting to see how similar they were. They might have been made from the same base, stock gun, whatever.
Right. Did you notice also that the hotel across the street from the hospital, I think it's the bank used in the Black Widow episode?
Okay, I'm sure it probably could be. I think it's this episode. I'm trying to remember when they drive down the street. It looks like in the background is one of the stages on the studio lot, which it very well could be. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong on that one too.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking pretty intently because there were a lot of outdoor shots this time around. I was trying to look and see if I recognized anything as even Batman related scenery.
This show is filled with outdoor shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this episode in particular.
Yeah. I really love the scenes, the whole setup, and the scenes with the wounded crook being taken out by the other crooks with the use of the laser gun. And I made a note of this, is when the Green Hornet gets into the cell and we see his reaction. We don't see what he's looking at, but the look on his face is really something. And again, I had to stress this, that this is not Batman that we're watching.
No.
He's obviously seeing the horrible aftermath of someone being fried by this laser gun. It's a really gruesome. We can imagine how gruesome it is just by the look on Britt's face.
Oh yeah, and the look on his face, plus the fact that the room itself, which we had just seen moments before, is now just blackened, and you just see the flickering of flames.
Yes.
The light of it. It's not even the flames themselves. It's just a glow.
Yes.
As whatever is left of the man is burning out.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's pretty horrific. And like you said, exactly, not a Batman story. The thing is, though, and it's my one little that gets me about this, because I do really like this, it does quickly become a usual Green Hornet episode then as he cuts in on the action. of the whole thing with the laser. Like, he wants in on the scene.
Sure.
You know, but it does have the added little twist of also continuing the story with Britt trying to negotiate the return of the paintings, and then the added wrinkle of also Casey having to deliver them. So I did like that.
Yeah, once again, Casey is sucked into the whole scheme when the crooks actually specifically demand that she be the one that to deliver the money, and then she goes into the whole thing. But we've seen this time and time again. It follows a formula, and a very, very tight formula. There's always this interesting setup. There's an interesting weapon or some other shtick that the villain is using. And then, yes, it usually wraps up pretty much in the same way. Now, I take that back, because there is something very interesting that happens at the end of this that doesn't always happen. And it's a very, very pulp thing, but we should probably get to that point first.
So they make the arrangements to make the trade, and Casey is brought to the gang's like hideout, which is under this tunnel area by a reservoir and such. And it's really cool because the Black Beauty's driving, and they're following her using the scanner.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said it's cool, because I did make a note about that too. It is a really cool hideout.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't get to see more of it. It's a really interesting set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to believe that they go to the trouble to making that really cool set, and it's literally on screen just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Here again, I didn't do my research. It makes me wonder if it's was built for something else, if it's redressed. It's funny with me, of course, being the big Batman fan that I am. I see with something that's supposedly underground, and there's raw rock showing, and I immediately think, is this the Batcave redress? But if you really look at it, to me it doesn't look like it's the Batcave.
Oh no!
In fact, the rocks actually look more realistic in this than in the actual Batcave set.
Well, the rocks there are brown to begin with.
Sure, I guess they could paint it, but again, it's a really cool hideout. And I love the approach of the Black Beauty, and that they're waiting for it. They get the special coating. I love it when Britt hands the can, like the paint can, to Kato.
Yeah.
Here, put this all over the Black Beauty. Oh, okay, sure. Not one single inch, can be left, exposed. But it's a cool setup. I like the way Britt arrives upon it. He calls in his science editor on the Sentinel and picks his brain. And then somehow Scanlan brings him the material.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how it fell to Scanlan to get that. It's not exactly in his job description as district attorney. But I think it was literally, instead of having yet another actor or another character involved in this, and they wanted Scanlan maybe to be in it a little bit more, that he's the one that brings the paint or whatever it is to Britt. But it's fun. I like the idea that they have to condition the Black Beauty to withstand a laser gun.
Yeah.
And you know what? The laser gun effects are really nice. Really nice for this time. I think, much better than any laser effects from Batman.
Oh, no. I can't go that far. I can't go that far. No. I can't go.
Okay.
I could say they're really good, yeah. But when you look at the laser effect from Mr. Freeze in the first season,
okay, all right, just as good.
Just as good. Okay.
I'm thinking more of Batman's mini laser beam, as Adam West pronounces it, the laser beam.
No, that's yeah.
Well, I also had to chuckle when Casey was asking about what was a laser. you have to remind yourself that this was not a household thing necessarily at that time,
right?
And that it's explained. The funny thing is that the word light, it's focused light. They don't explain it like that. They describe it as focused heat, which obviously light can be heat and heat can be light. But it's just interesting that they don't talk about the actual laser acronym.
Yeah. Well, they were playing up the heat too, especially when, Kato, as they're driving down the tunnel and the laser's hitting him, he's like, I can feel it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's another great moment. So we get into the hideout and the crooks are dispatched. And here's where I'm going with this. And I'm going to go back to this thing about this being a true pulp type story, is that our main villain does away with himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a very typical standard thing in pulp novels, especially in Doc Savage, where Doc Savage doesn't do away necessarily straightforwardly with the villain, but the villain, due to their own clumsiness or arrogance, is the agent of their own demise.
Right.
And that's what happens to our guy in this one. How, I'm not sure how the laser beam got left on, but it was during the fighting that I realized that the sound effect was still going on, which was a nice touch. And then of course the guy walks into it. Now, how the heck he couldn't see it, and it was a big wide opening to drive the cars in, but he walks right into it. But I did appreciate that, because again, I'm going to go back to what I said. This is a very, very tightly plotted, action moves along at a fast clip episode, very, very pulpy, which of course is very appropriate for the Green Hornet.
Yeah. A couple of things I noted when looking at especially that last scene there was that, the cave could have been the Londinium Batcave. Would have been a better Londinium Batcave, in my opinion, than doing a redress of a section of the actual Batcave. I didn't like, as the Black Beauty is bearing down, the sound of the laser is really loud, and then you also had the off notes that they were playing with the horn for the music, the incidental music. It all just sounded very noisy. And I was surprised I understood the dialogue between the Hornet and Kato as they were talking, because I was like, this is really noisy.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go along with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you notice they have a computer from the Jupiter 2?
Yes. Well, that's that standard computer thing. Were we together doing a Batman podcast when somebody explained to us that was some standard thing that could be bought at that time, and it made it into how many different TV shows?
They might have.
That computer
familiar.
console. Yeah, but I have to laugh when I see that. Well, that's another one of those things that made me immediately think that maybe this is the Batcave redressed, because there's one of those computer console things. Anything
else you wanted to add before we start wrapping things up?
Just that Mike Axford asks for a raise. So, was this aired out of sequence? Because he already got a raise, if you remember.
Hold on. I can tell you this one.
Couple episodes ago.
I can tell you this one because, again, one of the emails we got... Oh, dear. Okay, hang on. That's really weird. According to this, the Raise for Killing was the first one they produced.
What?
If according to this here, where it's saying... The production numbers, 9801 was the Reyes for Killing. 9802 was Programmed for Death. 9803 was Crime Wave. 04 was The Silent Gun, which that goes along with what we were talking about. But
no, you got to go by the masks.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Let me see something else here.
There's no way that they had these masks and then went to the clumsy looking ones and then went back.
Let me see if he...
Yeah, if that's the case, I'll be shocked.
Black Beauty.
It's either that or Mike is just really greedy.
All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to contact Martin Grams, and I'm going to get an answer from him about this.
Yeah, great.
And see, because I can't seem to find anything. But according to this, yeah.
Well, it's either that they're aired out of sequence, and this was before Mike got his raise, or nobody was paying attention when they were written, forgetting that he had already gotten a raise, or, like I said, Mike is just really greedy.
Duh. Hang on.
Yep.
Beautiful Dreamer. The raise for killing. Total cost of production, $131,000. Telecast. This episode was originally assigned a different production number, 9850. William Bodine was considered a master at filming in one take, ensuring the entire production would be delivered on schedule and under budget. Bodine's voice is among those in the audience attending the event at Reed's house. The climax of the episode with the crooks in the cave using a ray gun may have been inspired by the Republic Pictures cliffhanger matinee serials of the 1940s. But there's nothing here about it actually being... Well, it does say 9801 though, but
somebody will call us on it. Somebody out there knows,
because it would say something here to the effect of the very first episode. I mean, all it says is that it was originally signed. I'm going to ask Martin to clarify that.
All right,
so we'll have it, and I'll add it as an addendum afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Good. But I'm going by the masks. That would be odd, but
All right. So let me ask you this then.
Okay.
On our scale of must, can, or pass, how do you rate this episode?
I'm giving it a must.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
For solid action, a good, interesting weapon. Again, the Black Beauty is called upon to withstand a lot of pressure. I'm gonna, and plus, and I really like the hideout of the bad guys. Not that interesting of a bad guy, but when have we really had that interesting of bad guys in this show? But for all of that, and I do really feel like this thing really moves along, and as a pulp fan, I can really appreciate that. I'm going to give this a must watch.
Very cool. Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing too. It's just like you said, it's tight. I love the whole scene at the end, except for the noise. I think it was just a little too noisy. Maybe I've got sensitive ears, but it's got a nice flow to it. Everybody has a part in it. Even Kato is better used, I think, in this episode than in many others.
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right.
And hold on to that thought for next time.
Well, we're talking about next time with using Kato. Yeah. So let's talk about this here on our Hornets Buzz. The first letter I want to bring up was from early in October from Chris Kavanaugh. Now, Chris was really quick here. He said, love your Green Hornet podcasts, but I have a quibble with your rating system. There's only 26 episodes. A Hornet fan will want to watch them all. No passes. Perhaps ABC grades would work better.
I get where he's coming from.
Right.
But... and I hope this was clear in the beginning. This podcast is not just for Hornet fans.
Yeah.
And I hope you're backing me up on this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If you only have so much time for your pop culture pursuits, we hope to narrow down the list of episodes. But yeah, I agree. If you're really interested, sure, watch the whole season. It's only, what was it, 26 episodes?
26 episodes, yeah.
26 episodes. So it's a short one season. I guess you could binge watch it, but not everybody's a complete Hornet fan. I think people could come to this series for many different reasons. Bruce Lee being probably on the top of a lot of lists, but Bruce isn't always well used in this. So we're always going to point out when he is very well used, and many other different things. But there are episodes where, you know, if you've seen some of the other ones, you've already seen those episodes. So no, I think what we came up with is probably the best for the audience that we hope this podcast is for.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, our next letter comes from Mark Zukov, who wrote to us towards the end of October, in which he said, I'm in the process of catching up with your enjoyable Hornet Sting podcasts. As a huge Green Hornet fan, and particularly of the TV series, I'm thrilled to find these. Please keep them up. He points out to us the book that I mentioned from Martin Grams and Terry Salomonson, the Green Hornet History of Radio, Motion Pictures, Comics, and Television. The book is 779 pages long, followed by an index regarding the TV series. And actually here, this can answer our question. There are two sections, one for the inception and production of the show and an episode guide. The latter includes production numbers, which I've reproduced below. You can see that Program for Death was indeed the first episode produced, followed by Crime Wave. However, there is an anomaly in that the Ray is for Killing was assigned production number 9801, which would put it before Program. The book indicates, and this is what I was missing, I guess, that the episode was originally been assigned a very different production number, 9850, with no further explanation. So.
And thus the confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but it's as confusing as a comic book numbering.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I just want to know if it comes before the other episode where Mike Axford gets a raise. That's all I want to know.
Well, see, then that's where it really gets anomalous then, because you don't know, because it's 50 or 01. So
yeah. Well, somebody somewhere has to know the dates that these were all filmed.
Right.
Yeah, right? So that would tell us right there.
Yeah. He goes on to say the making of chapter indicates that many of the inconsistencies and weaknesses of the show came from interference by the original creator of the Green Hornet, George W. Trendle, who was constantly bothering William Dozier with complaints and requested changes to the scripts. For instance, Beautiful Dreamer, parts 1 and 2, had been written as the planned pilot of the series as a single hour-long episode, which could have been broken into 2 half-hour episodes if ABC wanted to do so. According to the book, the episode is the closest to Trendle's version of how the Hornet and Kato should play their parts, with Kato doing nearly all of the fighting while the Hornet watches.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, I actually really like it when the Hornet gets into fisticuffs.
Sure.
In this.
Yeah.
To be quite honest. And they're not trying to show that he's the equal of Kato in hand-to-hand combat. Far from it. And we're going to see sometimes he does stand back and he knows Kato's capabilities. But I actually like it that Britt gets right into it at times.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And it's interesting because then that sort of makes sense if that was meant to be a 1-hour episode. And who wrote that? Lorenzo Semple.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? They brought him in because they knew that, you know, maybe they could strike lightning twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have cared much for it had that been the pilot.
Ooh, okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, honestly, I'm going to go back to Program for Death. Okay. It's still a favorite of mine. First one filmed, and I honestly believe that should have been the first one aired. Yeah.
Interesting. And he finishes up by saying, a little background. I only got to see a few Batman episodes when they originally aired due to the fact that ABC chose to take an additional 30 seconds of commercial time, which was removed from the local affiliate, which resulted in my local ABC station, then WJZ-TV Channel 13 in Baltimore, Maryland, refusing to air the show. I had to watch the premiere on Channel 7, then WMAL-TV in Washington, D.C., which we could just about pick up with lots of snow in the picture. Our local NBC affiliate, then WBAL-TV in Baltimore, briefly picked up the show and aired each week's 2 episodes back-to-back on the weekend. I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but I don't think they did it for the whole first season. I wasn't allowed to watch the show frequently because my father was irritated about ABC's additional 30 seconds move. In fact, I had to write letters to the sponsors of the series telling them to protest to ABC. Of course, none of that did any good. Most of the time, I was able to catch an episode when I visited my grandparents in Suffern, New York, and got to watch a New York TV station. It was there that I first saw a Green Hornet episode, which was Eat, Drink, and Be Dead, the title of which stayed with me for many years. Embarrassing story, when I heard the name of the character for the first time, my 10-year-old self assumed they had misnamed Green Lantern. Of course, it was an entirely different character. It wasn't until a few years back that I finally managed to obtain DVDs of the entire series, of which one episode has a 2-second delay on the sound, and see the whole thing. Meanwhile, I had been exposed to the radio series. More recently, I've seen the 2 serials, which are rather interesting for various reasons. The first serial is definitely better than the second. Please continue these great podcasts. I'll look forward to hearing them. Mark Zutkoff. And Mark, thank you very much. I have the book. I thank you for reminding me I have the book.
Yeah, one of us has the book.
Yeah. I'm an idiot. Oh, man.
Yeah, but boy, yes, Mark, thank you so much for that letter. That's very encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. And we have one more and this was actually through Facebook, from Jerry Dooley. And Jerry writes, "Hi, The Green Hornet is one of my all-time favorite shows, so much so that I actually purchased a 1966 Chrysler Crown Imperial. Anyway, I have to be honest. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I have to be honest with you. Your podcast is painful to listen to."
Oh.
Yeah, your lack of knowledge about the show is confounding. Why do a podcast about a show you don't know much about and really don't seem to like that much? Both you and your partner, Jim Beard, seem to spend most of your time laughing at the show. You're both positively giddy. It's certainly not to be taken too seriously, but it's not a joke either. Jim?
Wow. I respect the opinion, but I believe even things that you completely love, you can still look at the shortcomings of it and talk about it. I think, well, number one, I think he's wrong. John and I love this. Do you love the show, John?
I can't say I love it. I'll be honest. Yeah, I'm not going to be lying to you about this. I don't, but I really do like it. I think there's a lot of merit there in the show. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to do this was because I've been doing the Batcave podcast. It's part of William Dozier's whole legacy in terms of the shows he produced. And I felt it deserved some attention. I mean, certainly it's not getting the Batcave attention.
Yeah. We respect the fans. I think I like the character Green Hornet more than I like this TV series, but I do really like the TV series, and it was always something of a mystery to me. I knew about it all through my many years on this planet, but only in more recent years really got to watch the entire thing. It wasn't being shown in syndication in my area in my formative years, but I knew about it. We had some of the merchandise at home from my older brother and sister from it, but it took a while for me to actually get to see it. So there was always some mystique about it. If you strip away the costumes and the fancy car, it tends to be a fairly straightforward crime drama
Right.
show. And it's well done, but I think it was probably ill-served by just being half-hour episodes. But no, I think if you go back of what we've covered so far, I think there's very few times that we said don't bother. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, we've either said can or must watch.
Yeah, and I take a little umbrage to saying that we're giddy about mocking it or making fun of it or laughing at it. I think there are moments where we've had some fun with it, but I think honestly any good fan of the show should do the same. Just an overall bow down reverence to it. I just, if that's good for some people, great. It's not the way I would approach it. I love Batman 66, and you've heard me on the Batcave podcast. I've critiqued it. I think that you have to. It's my most favorite television show of all time, bar none, and I'm still very open to critiquing it. Because I think it's important to do so. Green Hornet is not a perfect show, and there's a lot of room to dissect it, in my opinion. I appreciate his opinion, though.
No, I do, and I do too, and I appreciate that he is such a fan. And again, that's the hard thing, because that's the line you do when you do these kinds of shows, because on the one hand, you've got those people who have such a love and they get something from, I mean, to the point he bought the car, but on the other hand, there are those that if we were just sitting there gushing away and spouting out tons of information, they'd be like, well, what, how can you say that was good? That was bad. Like, there's a man by the name of Thomas DJ. He does a podcast called Better in the Dark, and he's always said it best, and it's a rule I live by. It's one thing to love your characters. It's another thing to love your characters.
Yeah.
If you if you can't make that distinction and say, yeah, sometimes, we're going to have some stinkers, or sometimes, and not to put too fine a point on it, the show was only on for 26 episodes. There's a reason why. And we're starting to see it as we're going through some of these reviews, regrettably. There's a reason why as I'm doing now with the Batcave podcast, there's a reason why it didn't go beyond a third season.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right.
All right, so next time we're going to be doing an episode that for many fans is a favorite. So let's see if it holds up to Jim and myself as well. The Praying Mantis. Now, cards on the table, it is a favorite of mine, not only because it gives Bruce Lee a chance to shine, but it also features Mako and Key Luke. You can't, beat that. And you can see why it is a fan favorite.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Jim, thank you. Take care, everybody.
Let's roll, Kato.